Fuck it, we'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
All right.
That was what does he say? That was Sting. All right, we're gonna have Sting play us out.
Yeah. Is that the Bill O'Reilly?
That's the Bill O'Reilly, the greatest. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yep.
Hi everyone. It's the Tempest here with Sam.
And Jack.
Coming at you live with our new and improved microphone.
Yeah, it's all shiny, new. Hopefully you can hear both of us loud and clear with our crystal audio quality.
Yeah, we've actually invested money in this, which is something I never really thought.
Yeah, we're legit now.
I know. I'm going to start doing more to advertise this, and we have a small following so far, like a very, 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 very small following, but they're loyal people. Yeah. They listen every week. Speaking of that, we should probably say sorry we didn't produce an episode last week. That's why this one's coming out so early. We feel very guilty about not having done one.
I mean, it was the start of university classes, so podcasting will be irregular probably for the next couple of months.
I'm optimistic. I think we'll find a good date and we'll stick to it. But yeah, we're here. We're back. We are fresh off watching the RNC.
Yep, Republican National Convention was this last week. Four-night bonanza of fun and excitement.
You thought it was a bonanza. I was very disappointed. They did have some ludicrous things on there, like our buck-toothed teenage friend Nicholas Sandman, the kid famous for wearing a MAGA hat and smirking at a Native American man.
Yep, he did his speech. They had the gun couple.
Gun couple were boring. I was expecting, like the people that waved guns at protesters to have more interesting things to say.
Yeah, no, it was just your general white flight, preserve suburbia sort of nonsense.
Yeah, yes, and they did have a few extremos on there, like a lot of fanatical pro-life people, but it wasn't really anything.
Really, the only wild speaker that got turned into like good content was
meme.
Oh, what's her name?
Guilfoyle.
Kimberly Guilfoyle. That's right. Her wild fanatic speech. Waving her arms,
where
screaming to the heavens,
like intentionally mimicked
is yet to come.
She intentionally mimicked Adolf Hitler. That's but other than that, it was a pretty mellow. I wouldn't say mellow, but it was reasonable. It wasn't, I think they're trying to tone it down a notch.
Yeah, they definitely were for the convention, because after the Democratic convention, they probably felt pretty confident, but even with their mellow version of their platform, I think they kind of dropped the ball. If they were trying to go for moderate voters with this whole display of hey, we're here for you, it was still a little off base.
You don't think it's going to work? You don't think it's going to appeal to moderate voters?
No, I think that the RNC made a much better case for Joe Biden than the DNC did. I don't think that, as much as they like to sort of play the stand-in for the white working class, the sort of industrial America, Rust Belt sort of politics,
aesthetics,
I don't think they did much to appeal to that voter base. I think it was a lot of the usual fear-mongering, big showing from the religious right, but it wasn't any populism, really. Not in the way that Trump really behaves. It was just a lot of very broad, vague appeals. And it was all culture war nonsense.
Yes. The religious right thing is interesting, because that's one thing I took away. I was like, this is very religious. And I feel like that's not even a demographic that they need to worry about. I don't think those people are going to vote for Joe Biden. And yes, I agree with you. It was a lot of cultural stuff. I think that's all they have, because the economy is in free fall, and we're nearing 200,000 deaths with the pandemic. So this is the last leg they have to stand on, and I think it's interesting that you think the DNC caused more people to want to vote for Trump, and the RNC caused more people to want to vote for Biden.
Yeah, I think that the DNC was not a particularly effective political event. I mean, they're both online, so who's to say what effective even means in this context anymore? But the DNC, it was, again, your very standard speakers. I mean, nothing really exciting. You had a couple headlines come out of it, but nothing that really changed the game at all. I don't see anything from either convention really coming out and making voters think like, "Oh, I had this candidate written off, but now maybe I'll like look at them." I don't think that really swung either way cuz they were both just such blasé events. And part of that comes from it being online. Like, would we
I
have
totally
seen
agree.
Trump go off the rails if he had like a roaring crowd in front of him? Maybe I could see that happening, but him standing at a podium in front of an empty room, or all of those speakers in the empty room, and then in like the White House, it doesn't build the momentum or excitement that you really need to push people either way. It was more so, hey, let's I'll come out, say a few words, I'll walk away, and take from that what you will, but you're not really coming away with anything more.
I feel bad for Trump because I think he really misses the crowds.
Oh, absolutely.
His last rally was what's the one that caused Herman Cain to die? Where was that again?
Oh, Tulsa.
Tulsa.
That was
Yes.
the Tulsa Juneteenth
Yes.
rally.
Right. Yes. Right before the anniversary of the Juneteenth. Tulsa, the site of a horrible race riot in the 1920s. That was his, and the narrative on that is that it was a bust. That he got a low crowd.
Yeah.
He got trolled by the TikTok teens.
Herman Cain died.
Herman Cain died, which is always a good thing. Yes, and so like he misses his crowds. He misses, and whenever Trump is like feels like he's losing, and he definitely feels like he's losing right now. He's worried he's going to lose the election. He acts like a little baby.
Yeah, he's no, I hate to say fun, but he doesn't do anything exciting. He tries to win the core Republican votes. He doesn't aim for the fringes anymore.
Yeah, and he's very defensive when he speaks now. He's like, the Supreme Court doesn't like me, and all those, all that insanity.
It's a lot of whining.
Yeah, yeah. The last fun Trump speech was when he made fun of Mike Bloomberg's height.
Yeah.
That rocked.
That was CPAC, wasn't it?
Yeah. We'll miss that.
Yeah, I don't see. Honestly, the campaign trail has been largely in Biden's favor. I mean, we saw it in the primary, but when Biden isn't showing up to events, when he's just like, the less of Biden we see, the more voters like him. And as far as this election is going to go, we aren't going to have to see a lot of Joe Biden on the campaign trail. We're not going to have to see a lot of him anywhere. He's going to have to. He may not even have to show up for the debates. Pelosi said she'd support him boycotting them.
I want to get into that later because I want to talk about that. But yeah, so you're saying that you think because Joe Biden gets to hide, he gets. I think there's some truth to that. Obviously, he does better when he's away, but I wouldn't attribute that to his primary victory. I think he just happened to be the last moderate standing.
Yeah.
And I think the Democratic primary voters, unfortunately, did not want Bernie Sanders to be their nominee. So they just had to wait for... Yeah, so since he was the last centrist standing, and the Democratic Party still wants to be a centrist party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think it's the more exposure to Joe Biden, the greater his unfavorability is. And if anything, this pandemic, having him sit in the basement and like zoom in his interviews, zoom in his campaign ads, that's going to work wonders for him.
Yeah, because like what the last interview we did, he accused somebody of being a junkie. He said he's insane. He can't be trusted around a camera or but this is a point that, so we should just get right into this because I think this Nancy Pelosi says that Joe Biden shouldn't debate Trump. First of all, no presidential debates would be practically unheard of. I mean,
Yeah,
Every single one has been televised since like the 1970s.
yeah, since the Nixon Kennedy.
Well, Johnson Goldwater wasn't televised.
Oh,
Yeah, unfortunately, that would have been a very fun debate to watch.
that would be.
I would go back on YouTube for that one. I would actually enjoy that.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Joe wants to and or would do better boycotting a debate with Trump. I mean, when it comes down to it, both sides are expecting a strong showing from their respective candidate. The Trump fanatics think that Trump is a very stable genius and that Biden's losing his marbles, and the Biden fans think that he's just like a strong progressive and Trump is like edging towards like dementia. And so neither side wants to see their candidates stand down, even though both very well may be mentally unwell. And I think it's going to be this like popular pressure from the individuals that support you that we see both of them going to the debates.
Yes, definitely. I think I don't think it would help Biden to not debate. I think
Oh,
that's
certainly.
insane because think about it. This election, because of the virus, there's no canvassing. I think the only way to win elections is to knock doors. Well, I used to think that until the last primary happened and Bernie Sanders knocked like millions of doors and got whooped on
I mean,
Super Tuesday.
that's the other thing is Trump has a much larger and more significant campaign infrastructure or had one than Biden does. Biden didn't have like that sort of setup that Bernie Sanders did, and even with picking up Kamala onto the ticket, he's not absorbing that sort of infrastructure. Now Trump, on the other hand, has this like sizable network of I wouldn't even call it like grassroots in the same way Bernie is, but it's a very community based sort of network of propaganda, whether it's like through Facebook groups or like
Right.
canvassing. He
Right.
has those connections, and I don't know if Biden has that. But unfortunately, you're not going to have those in person sort of like interpersonal exchanges to get people to vote this election. So who
So
knows if that.
the debates are the only way to reach out to undecided voters.
And that's going to be the only way to really hit like the headlines that you need to get attention is in debates. I mean, he can roll forward with new policies or whatever, but he's not going to hit like front page of CNN unless it's obliterating Trump in a debate or absolutely like blowing it in an interview.
Right, yeah. And the people saying that Biden shouldn't debate, I feel like that's just admitting you have no faith in him. Like, their defense is, oh, well, because Trump lies all the time. You're saying that you don't think Biden can overcome that. Because, like, you're underestimating Biden's capability, you're underestimating the intelligence of the American voter. Because when Trump was saying on the debate with Hillary that, they're just murdering babies the minute they're born. Like he was saying insane stuff like that. I think everybody knew it was bullshit. I just think the people that voted for him didn't care, and he could go up there and say like Sleepy Joe's accepting checks from Xi Jinping or like whatever. Like he can say anything, and people won't care. That's not like Trump's lies aren't gonna change the people's votes. I mean, yeah, of course the mentally unhinged people on Facebook are gonna believe it, but that's not real life. Those people don't make up a big enough a portion of, the Republican Party or like anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just and you're saying that you don't think Biden can like overcome and maybe that's true, but I think he would lose more votes skipping the debates than doing poorly in them. And I think people are upset because they know that Trump's looking forward to the debates because he thinks he can out maneuver by. He thinks he's more well put together than Biden. I think a lot of people assume that Trump's not all there, but he's more there than Biden. And Biden has just a bunch of unexcusable gaffes he made all throughout the election cycle.
Yeah. And I guess the other part that comes up in the debates is we're talking about like the two debating parties, but what about the moderators? Because who they choose as the moderators and who hosts the actual debates could also swing the direction pretty substantially. I mean, if you're having like OAN moderators, which
That would never happen.
yeah, but that's what Trump has said, or even like some of the Fox people. I mean, you're seeing a lot more pushback from Fox now than ever, but even then you get some of those kind of nut jobs on as moderators, and they can moderators make or break these debates.
You think so?
I do.
I do. I mean, there was that time, like, they asked Michael Dukakis, like, what if your wife was murdered? What would you do? That was insane. What would you do if we killed your wife, Michael Dukakis? Uh, yeah, they have there ever been Fox News? Have there been like nakedly partisan people? Like they never have left wing. Like Rachel Maddow would never host a like moderated debate.
No,
that would
but
never happen.
I'm not even talking like openly partisan. I just mean more if they're pushovers.
Oh yeah,
Like if
so
like Trump says something and rather than asking twice, they just roll over for him, and that's what we saw in some of the Clinton debates. Is they didn't necessarily press him on a lot of those statements, and I know like in the moment fact checking or like play by play fact checking has been a big part of this debate, and whether or not networks will be allowed to fact check on air is playing into the Trump campaign's decision as to whether or not debating is worth it. But no, I think it just comes down to not necessarily even the initial questions, but the follow-ups and how good the moderators are at following up on questions and statements made by these candidates. Because Joe Biden, whether or not he makes all of these gaffes, if you ask him to follow up, he can probably substantiate most of his claims, or at least back it up with something other than more nonsense. But Trump says something and there's not really anything behind it, and I feel like when push comes to shove, that looks much worse on air than some Biden gaffe.
Yeah, I guess so. I think they would push back on him now. I think they're more outraged that he won. So I think everybody sort of treated the last debates as like spectacle because they were like, oh, we just got to get through this like comedy hour, then we're gonna have President Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but now, Biden, like his lead is nothing. It's very, very small. It's smaller than Hillary's was at this point in polls. So I think many people are starting to accept that Trump's going to win just because of A, voter suppression, and B, scaring white people.
Yeah, it's the play for the suburbs.
Yes, I think that, I definitely support the protests, and frankly, I support any kind of, all these Black Lives Matter protests. Like, I don't care what happens at them. I think that everything's good and necessary.
Absolutely.
But, and I'm not saying this should stop them, of course, but like you're just gonna have bitchy, frightened white people freak out and be like, they're burning the city, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely support the protests going on in Wisconsin right now, but part of the consequences of that is the suburbs very well might flip now, and you hate to see that because that's one of the states Biden needs.
Yes, he has to win 3 of those states.
Yeah, I mean, I did the election mapping the other day.
Oh yeah, you love it.
Yeah, and it came out 269 to 269.
We should find a way to like post that on social, like show.
Upload the map.
Because it's very humorous how he managed to find a way to like tie a presidential election.
Yeah, no, I wasn't even trying to do that. That's just
the
intuitive answer. Because it was Biden loses Wisconsin, and then wins Minnesota, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, with the same results from Maine, and then Biden picking up 1 in Nebraska. That puts them tied exactly in electoral votes.
Well, that's not going to happen. You keep thinking, all right, I don't want to get into like the stupid electoral college
the horse
stuff.
race.
But Nebraska is not going to split their electoral. I just want to make that point clear. I feel like with you, when you make a good point, you get very far away from the microphone, and when you start to make a very bad point, you get closer. So you got very close to the mic to say, I think Nebraska's going to split their vote up again.
Yeah.
Which hasn't happened since 2008.
2008, it's not that far away. That's 12 years. That's 3 elections.
It's an anomaly that Yeah, it's good. It's going to go all Republican for sure. That was just because we're not in the same conditions we were in 2008 with the
That
Republican Party.
this is, uh, we're looking a lot like 2008 right now. If
Oh,
you're talking,
I think we're looking like 2004.
well, yeah. I mean,
I
you can also
think
say we're looking like 2000 or 1972.
we are definitely looking at 2000 because no matter what happens, this election is going to be disputed by the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think that I'm worried if the Democrats win, the Republicans are going to do like terrorist attacks. If the Republicans win, liberals might pass around some petitions to sign, and that'll be that. You'll see more infographics.
Yeah, I mean, coming back to Wisconsin, that's what we've seen is the right wing folks come out looking for a fight when
Yes.
things aren't going their way. They'll cross
Yes.
state boundaries.
And yes, and it happened in Portland yesterday too.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was 600 cars, Trump supporters, which is insane number. 600 cars just drove through the streets shooting paintballs. Yes, we are dealing with. It looks like the Weimar Republic
Yeah.
right now.
I mean, the Portland thing I think was especially atrocious because you see these people coming from outside of the cities, ganging up into a convoy, and then like driving through an area where they know their like enemies are and harassing them, and
Yes, they're like naked displays of like Nazi agitation.
it's just direct antagonism.
Yes.
Towards groups of people, and I think there was a couple of shootings there. One person was killed. I
Yeah.
believe they were one of the right wing
Yeah, a MAGA.
demonstrators, but there's a lot of information still.
Yeah, they're not
coming
releasing
out
a lot
on
of
that.
information at the time of this recording, but a MAGA guy was reportedly killed in Portland.
I mean, the Portland Police Department is notably bad, historically bad with this sort of thing. So it's no wonder this happens.
Yeah, it's pretty insane, folks. So, yeah, I think 2000, but more violent is the only logical outcome.
Especially with this going on in the background of the RNC. I mean, we watched, was it day 2 or day 3, right after the shooting in Wisconsin, and you still hear all of those law and order dog whistles, like come out and protect your property.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
of these things in the wake of a 17-year-old going out and murdering protesters.
Yes, yes. Trump encourages these people, and I think it'll only get worse if he loses. I think for sure. That's sort of like one of the main reasons I want to like vote for Biden is just because I have it in my head that if you go out there and you vote for him, and it's the same. It's kind of the liberal mentality of back to normal, where like racist people would shut up again. Like they wouldn't be all. They would be much more private about being racist.
Yeah.
Everybody would just be racist in their own homes.
You would have to go back into the closet.
Exactly. Yes. Like, but I just don't think when we have like terrorist attacks like this that there is any going back into the closet. Like that, even if their guy is out of power, they're still gonna want to strike, and they'll want to strike you. They'll be angry because they'll be losers.
That depends on how much faith you have in like the Republican Party, whether or not if Trump loses, whether or not the Republican Party would be willing to go back to the normal that was like 2012. Would they like take that hit, sort of expel Trump from the party, start to cut off the people like Matt Gaetz, all those sort of like Trump sycophants, or would they absorb them like the Tea Party? Would they just sort of make it the right wing of the party and keep them around?
I sort of have no reason to suspect they'd take the high road.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't even like joke about this or talk about it casually. It feels weird talking about it conversationally. It's like so upsetting, but I don't know what else to say. Like this is like a turning point. It's very bad. There's paramilitary groups just in the streets of cities now, and they could very well come to every city if they wanted to. It seems like they are very organized, weirdly. Well, it kind of seems like it's spontaneous, but they're good at spontaneous organization. Like, these guys don't go to chapter meetings, but somehow, if it's through Facebook or whatever, they're able to get together really fast and go out and do this, because obviously this was planned. You don't get 600 cars together randomly. But but I also don't think this is like those weird like militias that took over that empty government building in like 2014.
Yeah.
It seems more organized, but also very spontaneous in how it responds.
Mm-hmm. It's the new sort of activism that we're coming to like a reckoning with. We don't know how to like approach politics now, because this is what politics is. And this is what it's becoming. This is what the messaging is leading to, and we don't know how far anyone's willing to take it.
I think we should change notes to a lighter topic.
Yeah.
Jack, for one of the few times in his life, has been like fuming about Twitter discourse, cancel culture, and all of those things, and something I alluded to earlier, infographic culture, and on Instagram. And I think we should spend the next half of the podcast getting into that, because I feel like that's a much more lighthearted, easygoing topic.
Yeah, we went for the we took a dark turn there, but
we're bouncing back.
That's something that needed to be said. Something needed to be touched on.
Yes, this podcast that has 30 listens needs to give its take on the dawn of fascism in America. Yeah. I'm so glad we got that taken care of.
We need to make sure everyone knows we were there.
Oh, yes. We said it first. You heard it here first. Heard it from the Tempest. The last free news source in America.
Yeah, follow us at podbean.com.
Come on our Podbean. It's monkey time.
Yeah.
Okay, no, let's get into it. So you, in your notes, and I mean his notes, he's holding his phone in front of me. It says, cancel culture, the Sandman, blue check marks. So let's do it, baby. What transcribe your notes.
Okay.
What do you want to say?
So we were talking about the RNC pretty early on, and one of the big threads that I sort of saw in the RNC, especially with Nicholas Sandman, is cancel culture. This sort of like looming threat, sort of Damocles.
Trump discussed it.
Exactly.
In his speech.
Of cancel culture. The online police are out to get you. They will censor you. They will throw you in Twitter jail, shadow ban you, the whole 9 yards, because you say things they don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
This has been driving me crazy for a while. I absolutely hate the discourse around cancel culture. I think it's dumb. I think that people that get angry about it are a bunch of big babies. I think people want to be racist and mean and just generally unpleasant without consequences. And when they have to see consequences, it doesn't make them happy.
For sure.
I mean, again, the big thing with Nicholas Sandman is the networks ruined his life. Several settlements and a lot of lawyering up later. He's speaking at the RNC. I would not consider that a ruined life. He just got brought on to Mitch McConnell's campaign for Senate re-election. The man has a wonderful career ahead of him as a right-wing grifter. He is now part of the uncancelable subclass of right-wingers with a Patreon.
Yes, he hasn't launched his Patreon yet. Hopefully we'll launch ours first.
Yeah.
But yes, you bring up a great point in that he was quote-unquote canceled early in the year because he looked like a smug little shit on camera. And even if he wasn't, I don't care what the truth is. He looked like a strangleable asshole, and he deserved some of the hate he got. I'll say some because he is, I'm pretty sure, a minor.
Yeah, here's the thing. He does not deserve death threats, but he does deserve some level of mockery online.
For looking, anybody wears a MAGA hat.
All of us deserve mockery online because it teaches us to behave well.
except for us,
Yeah.
except for you and I.
I mean, you've been canceled before, so
I've been canceled and I bounced back.
yeah.
Um,
Did you get any settlement money from that?
no, I didn't get any money for being canceled,
Yeah.
but um, man, oh yeah, I just that meme of Tony Soprano, take your hat off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's canceled and he does better than ever. But I'm more interested in what do you think about? To me, cancel culture has always been a thing where like the right gets upset about it, but they're the ones that have always canceled people
They have,
historically.
yeah.
The right wing has always used it to silence. Think about how recently the Iraq War was. If you were against the Iraq War, your career, your reputation was ruined. George Bush literally canceled Dan Rather, a respected journalist who's been a journalist for decades, because Dan Rather ran a story about him doing it for like he got kicked out of the Texas Air National Guard, and Dan Rather talked about it in the 2004 election, and lost like his job, and a bunch of people lost their
Yeah,
jobs.
Bill Maher got his show canceled for saying that maybe America was cowardly for shooting missiles overseas and not actually fighting on the ground.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's always been like these sort of
Bill Maher.
right wing ideologues that have been doing the canceling. I mean, as far as what gets people legitimately canceled and like strips fame from them, it's this like puritanical sort of idea of what celebrity is. And if you skew from this very traditional sort of archetype, then you get kicked out. Now, we haven't seen that with more contemporary celebrities. Like a lot of the new generation of like young famous people are sort of like outside of these different like rules, but no, that's in most like areas of society these still apply, and you can lose a large following and substantial amounts of money if you don't sort of comply with the hegemonic American ideals and like wave the red, white, and blue flag.
And that's why I want to push back on this. That's why Noam Chomsky is against cancel culture. And if you remember early in the summer, he got a lot of shit for signing the same letter that J.K. Rowling, a known transphobic person, got that said that cancel culture is bad. And he was referring to it, I think, in the academic sense. There should be no cancel culture in academia. And I think that's because he remembers the Red Scare. And he remembers that, for example, Norman Finkelstein, a famous professor, got canceled for saying Alan Dershowitz was wrong in his assertion that Palestinian people are subhumans, or whatever Dershowitz said.
Yeah, very controversial.
Yeah, he was denied tenure. And if you look at the Red Scare, you know what happened to like anybody who expressed any anti-capitalist or anti-imperialist sentiments in academia since like the 1950s. They got their ass handed to them.
Yeah, and I mean, when it comes to left-wing circles, I think there is sort of that problem arising where it's you get very much expelled from this central group. You're not canceled in like the broader societal context, but you do get ostracized from like within these groups if you don't uphold certain standards of behavior.
Yes,
and I think a lot of those standards are either double standards or just completely incoherent or irrelevant to a lot of the broader goals.
Can you cite an example?
Yeah, I hate to say like word policing, but
yeah, you sound like Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, but no, I think it's very easy. I mean, the other part of this I should add is half of cancel culture is not being able to give a good apology or grow as a person. I think that doesn't count as being canceled if someone says, "Hey, you need to do better," and you say, "No, fuck you. I'm gonna stay this way, and you can't make me do anything." I think learning is a great way to be uncanceled. So if you're afraid of being canceled, try that. But no, I think it's a lot of the people that don't give others time for growth. I mean, the big cancel culture scandal that I can remember from the left, especially Twitter, was ContraPoints. Um,
Oh, yeah. What did she do?
she was sort of cut from certain like left wing communities for some of her takes on like non-binariness. A lot of it was like removed from context, but there was that very swift mob justice, like her Patreon lost subscribers, her friends Patreon lost subscribers.
Oh
She was
no.
cut out from a lot of these very like
Oh no.
close communities.
Oh no.
Yeah. And that was she did a whole video about that, which I think is fantastic. Definitely check it out. ContraPoint's video on cancel culture. But it's very true how insular communities can have a problem with sort of rejecting or sending people out.
Yeah, it's sort of like a neo-Nazi rally, and like an Irish guy shows up and he says, "Hey, I'm white too," and they're like, "No, you're not."
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's the point I'm trying to make, because I guess, unfortunately, neo-Nazis are always looking for converts.
Yes,
They,
yes. Now they are, but if they take power, they decide who's
Yeah.
white and who's
Well,
not
'cause
white. Yes.
right now they are the political minority, and they know they're the political minority, so they'll do what they can to become a majority. I think a lot of the left doesn't realize that they're a political minority, and they actually have to like bring people in, and they can't administer purity tests, which I mean, you should. There are people you shouldn't associate with, but you should also believe that every human has the potential for growth, and you should try and form like relationships with people to try and like better both yourself and them, instead of just completely rejecting other humans as not worth the energy.
Yeah, a lot of younger left-wing people seem to think that every working class person is like Roseanne.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot about the South, especially how people just write off an entire region of the United States as like racist.
Oh yeah, they like celebrate when bad things happen.
Yeah,
They make fun of the
incredibly
South for being
dismissive
poor.
of like large portions of like the population in America, large parts of like the population of people of color, poor people in the U.S.
Yeah, like this. Like, there's more black people in South Carolina than white people, I think.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's ludicrous. Yeah, it's at this point all you can do is laugh. Like I don't think I don't think the left exists in this country outside of Twitter,
no,
and I think that's a big problem. I think people always say that Twitter is not real life, and that's true, but the left isn't off Twitter. Like that's what they
Yeah.
forget. Like I agree. Like if you're going to some sort of any organizing thing, you're not getting canceled there the way you're getting canceled on Twitter. But also, we're just not going outside of Twitter. I think this is sort of getting into the militancy, like organizing, Leninist crap. But also, like we need to build, and people can't build on Twitter. I don't think the people on Twitter should be in charge of building anything. I think I don't think the OnlyFans left should be the vanguard.
Do you think that part of the reason that Bernie Sanders lost, or was a lot of us were blindsided by him losing, was the fact that he seemed a whole lot more popular on Twitter than he ended up being in real life?
I guess so. It reminds me of in 2016, some blue check mark person tweeted, "I just left a showing of Hamilton. I can't imagine Hillary losing the election." So I sort of feel like Twitter is very much like a leftist bubble, and like you see a Bernie tweet get millions of likes, and you're like, oh well, see, millions of people liked it,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think we'll ever fully have a 100% answer. Like this is why Bernie lost. I think the main reason is the Democrats want to be a centrist party, and Bernie was never a centrist. I think that's the main reason.
Yeah, and I mean, we see our fair share of centrists on Twitter.
Yes, and they always get made fun of and bullied, and
That's like the whole blue checkmark class of
Yes.
Twitter.
That discourse, Twitter had nothing to do with Bernie losing. I don't think. No, I'll say that. I don't think me bullying
No, but
Jennifer
do you think
Rubin.
do you think it at all altered how we saw the election and
Yeah.
maybe made us a little more hopeful than we should have been?
No, I think we underestimated our enemies.
Mm.
I think we didn't think Obama would intervene.
You didn't think you would call in, ask them to drop out?
No, I didn't think anybody thought that would happen. I think the Bernie campaign should have had a plan for when everybody dropped out. I think he should have saw ahead of time, like, this is going to be a two-man race or two-person race.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, but I think, honestly, I think Biden was the only... There was no other Democrat that was going to stand out from that crowd.
They were trying. I don't think they wanted to nominate Biden.
They were trying, but I could not have seen Amy Klobuchar or Pete Buttigieg or even Elizabeth Warren pull through that far. Biden was the one people knew. He was consistently fourth, but everybody knew him. He had the recognition.
Yes, and he did. He managed to win South Carolina.
Yeah.
And yeah, Obama's only major accomplishments post presidency were destroying Bernie Sanders' chance of winning the nomination and ending a strike.
Yeah, ending the NBA strike.
Becoming a strike breaker. I just want to bring that up. LeBron James and a bunch of notable black athletes went on. Well, the whole teams went on strike.
Yeah, it's the entire NBA.
Yeah, yes, the whole NBA went on strike, and was it the entire MLB going on strike too? Like, who went on strike?
I don't know who went on strike for MLB, but I know a couple teams did.
Yes,
at least.
yeah. So it wasn't the entire league.
Yeah, but it was especially pronounced in the NBA because that is just a majority black sport.
Oh yeah,
and it has been historically.
And they went to Obama to ask for advice, and he said, "Go back to playing. Shut up and dribble. Get back out there, boys."
Yeah.
Can't wait to see how my Obama impression sounds on, on like.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes over.
Oh, you think I'm gonna get canceled?
Yeah, you might be canceled again
By all 5 of our listeners.
Yeah.
Hey man, we're growing. We got a mic now, and I think the sky is the limit.
Yeah. Maybe by next time we'll have 7 followers.
I think we're gonna get 7 followers. I see it happening. I think we're gonna have 10 by the time we film the next episode. Yeah. Let's see. So if you're listening, let's make it happen, baby. Come on.
But returning to like the Twitter discourse and like the blue check mark sort of class, honestly, the best couple of hours I remember on Twitter in a while was after the big hack, and then they banned everyone with a blue check mark from tweeting.
Oh, that's great.
It's like they hacked a couple of accounts. It was the Bitcoin scheme through like Elon Musk, Joe Biden, all of those famous people.
Kanye.
And then they just banned everyone with a blue check mark from tweeting.
Yeah, that rocked. That was very good.
And that was the best like 24 hours on Twitter. It was just the real people.
Yes, it was just yeah, I dream of a world where Jennifer Rubin isn't allowed to speak.
Yeah, no more Neurotandon.
No. And I feel bad for all like my my neurotypical or healthy friends that listen to this podcast. Have no idea what we're talking about.
I'm very sorry that. Actually, I'm very sorry that we're too online. We spend too much time on Twitter.
Yes, but that's where we got the idea to start this podcast.
Yeah,
that's where these things grow.
It is the center of political discourse in the modern era.
Yeah, and I think it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But we live in a society of spectacle. That's a book I've been meaning to read. What are you reading? You reading anything good? You know women don't like it when you read.
Huh. Yeah, that was a whole nother Twitter thing, is the bookshelf controversy.
Yeah,
but let's not get into that.
No, I want to get into it.
You want to get into that?
What are you reading? You reading Infinite Jest?
No, I'm not reading Infinite Jest. I've decided to start reading The Color of the Law. That's been on a lot of the anti-racist book lists recently, and it's all about zoning laws and redlining. I've only just started it, so I don't have particularly much to say other than that I definitely look forward to learning more about it, because it is that sort of structural, systemic analysis that I think is important in a lot of these issues, and you may not get from some of the more social-oriented literature. But I think that, like, a sort of forward legal analysis and explaining the like economic outcomes of a lot of these sorts of things is very potent argument for anti-racist action.
Oh yeah, for once I agree. I think housing discrimination is one of like the biggest
Yeah,
deals.
it's probably one of the greatest evils in American history. And
Yes, I think after the criminal justice system, that should be like brought to the forefront.
absolutely.
Yeah.
How about you? Are you reading anything recently, or have you been hit by a pile of homework?
I've been reading stuff for school that I was going to read anyway.
Yeah.
Reading a lot of Lenin, the social construct theorists, and when I get a break, I'm still trying to get through Dune. I want to read that before the movie comes out.
Yeah, the miniseries.
Huh?
I think it's a miniseries, isn't it?
With Timothy Chalamet?
Yeah.
No, it's a movie.
It's a movie?
Yeah. No, it's a movie. It's a spiritual successor to David Lynch's masterpiece.
I wouldn't call it a spiritual successor to David Lynch's masterpiece. I don't think you can spiritually success that.
No, not at all. Yeah, well, ladies, if you're listening, you don't have to worry. I don't read anything, so you don't have to be afraid of me.
Yeah. I do read. I live in a library downstairs.
Yeah, it's extremely cursed, but I'm a regular himbo.
Yeah. It's got a pile of a couple of books.
Yeah, they're
mostly
really
for aesthetic.
they're really slapped together lazily. There's some Zizek in there, some Michael Parenti. Anyway,
I think that brings us to a close for this week.
yeah, I don't see any reason to go on. I think we're over 45 minutes. That's a good one. We've had notes this time, so people can stop complaining. We got complaints because we would just say something and then not bring it up later.
Yeah, we're trying to work on our fact checking. We haven't added sources, but we'd like to elaborate on some of our ideas.
I'm not putting sources, and I'll elaborate only when I deem it necessary. But the Belarus thing was true. You can look me up. You can fact check me on that all you want.
Yeah, a lot of Eastern European political movements are divided between post-Soviet dictators and people that erect memorials to SS.
Yes, there's
officers and groups.
Either have
And it's a bad political binary.
Yeah, you either have corrupt former Soviet bureaucrats, or you have Nazis.
Yeah.
Pick your poison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not to say that the movement in Belarus is comprised of mostly Nazis. I think it has taken a turn to be a pro-democracy, like progressive movement, especially for the region. But that's not to say that there aren't insidious elements at play in any social revolution.
I mean, but who are we to judge? You know, look, you're trying to convince me to vote for Joe Biden, and he's the lesser of two evils.
That's true. At this point, who are we as Americans to judge the poor political binaries around the world?
Yes, this is this election is going to be a real hoot.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. I'm Sam.
And I'm Jack, and we'll talk to you next week or as soon as we can.
Hell yeah, monkey time, baby.